Well, George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, has done it again. Achieved cinematic marvels in making a sequel, The Empire Strikes Back, which opens Wednesday at the North Point Theater in San Francisco. Now, while you're watching the clips, which are throughout the show tonight, no adjustment of your set is necessary. You're going to notice a little black cutoff top and bottom. That's because of the CinemaScope format, and that's the way it was provided to us by 20th Century Fox. Now, all of the popular characters are back doing battle with the dastardly Darth Vader and the evil forces of the Empire. It's a visually stunning film with a greater sense of mysticism than Star Wars had, and I think you can attribute that directly to the director of the film, Irvin Kershner. Now, I talked to Kershner last Monday at 20th Century Fox Studios in Los Angeles, and the first question I asked him was, when did you become obsessed in the subject matter of The Empire Strikes Back?
It happened almost the moment I began to work on the script with George and Larry. As we were finishing rewriting the script, I began to realize it was taking over. It seemed so right, so easy to talk about 3PO or R2 or Chewbacca or Han Solo or Princess Leia. It all seemed right. They seemed like old friends. I've never had that feeling before. And that's when I knew that I thought I'd be able to take it just that step further. I was challenged by wanting to make a picture that was aesthetically very satisfying, in which the story was told powerfully, and in which the special effects would be so integrated into the live action that often you wouldn't even be aware of them.
I think you did a marvelous job there in handling the characterizations and the special effects, so one doesn't seem to overpower the other. I felt that in this case, as opposed to Star Wars, that you found a good, happy balance. The Force, once again, plays a very important role in the film. What are your own personal thoughts on the Force? What does it mean to you?
Force means a great deal to me. The Force for me is, you see, the film is broken up for me into two phases, into outer space and into inner space.
You mean the psychology, the mind?
Well, yeah, what goes on inside us. There are two spaces that have to join together, and the Force has to do with inner space. And the Force is the power that resides in each one of us, the power that we hardly use, the potential that lies within us. The Force is like a metaphor. It's like a poetic evocation of that energy that some people seem to tap into and use and accomplish a great deal, and other people don't seem to be able to tie into it because they don't really believe they've got this power. And it's this power of self-definition that is the Force.
Do you feel that within you there is the equivalent of the Force?
Sometimes I feel there is, and sometimes I feel very disciplined and energized, and other times I feel unmotivated. I tell myself that I'm using the Force, but what we tell ourselves and what's really happening are two different things. We often have to look outside of ourselves to see what we're doing as an indication of what we're really up to.
Behind us on the wall here is a scene of the snow planet, the men marching into the station. You filmed that, I believe, around in Norway?
In Norway.
In bitter cold, and it was a very painful experience to capture that particular sequence, and a very exciting sequence too, a combat sequence on the planet. What are your memories about that?
Of being very cold. It went down to 26 below zero. And the wind was pretty intense, and when there was no wind, we had giant fans that would make wind. I found out it gets just as cold if you're making the wind or if it's the real wind. It was kind of dangerous being up there in a glacier because we were on green ice that was covered with snow, and there were crevices that went down hundreds of feet. It was cold, it was dangerous. We had terrible snow blizzards. The train, there were no roads going into the area, just one train comes through from Bergen to Oslo, and it even stopped running. We were sort of isolated on a little hotel in on a frozen lake. It was cold, and it's very uncomfortable trying to work with all the details of a film in that condition.
Irvin Kershner came to my house, and we sat and we talked for for a couple of hours. We talked about interesting things such as Eastern philosophy, European, Western philosophy, and then he told me the name of the character, and I really loved that name, you know, Lando Calrissian. And then he explained the character to me, and I said, geez, I'd love to do it. And, you know, I wanted to work with Kersh because I really have a tremendous respect for him. And I wanted to work with George Lucas because I regard him as a part of a whole new breed of filmmakers that I think represent the future, present future.
Carrie, you would probably agree with that, having made 2 films with George now. Princess Leia, do you feel that there were some changes in her character in the second film?
Oh, sure. I hope so.
What did you see her evolving through?
You get to know her better, and she's less stubborn, I think. She would defer more to somebody else's judgment in certain close calls, or when we have a long succession of close calls in both films. But she's less regal, you know. Well, there's a romantic interest, and...
She doesn't seem like a princess in this one. In the first one, she dressed and acted like a princess. In this one, she seemed to relate more warmly to the men. Do you agree with that?
Well, she very warmly to one of them. And through the relationships, you know, you get to know them better. So, you know, it's much more satisfying, really, to play that.
From your own personal point of view, what do you attribute to the great success of Star Wars? What are the things that you feel make it so appealing?
Well, it's the child in all of us, I think. It appeals to that, and also, I think it sort of harkens back to the films that were in the 30s and 40s, you know, where there were heroes and heroines, and there's something in it. You've never seen things in these films on the screen before like you see in this film in terms of effects, and you can identify with each of the characters. You know, they have all the heroes and the wise old sage and you know, the princess, and it's very sort of, it's a fairy tale-like. It's not tough, it's a challenge, I think, to work with things that aren't there, to stare at a piece of tape and say, Jesus, the Empire's out there, the asteroid field, you know, and you're looking at nothing. You're looking at the corner of a camera or the crew, or, you know. So it's, you're working in tight quarters. I don't think we like the cockpit too much, and working with blue screen situations. When we go to see the film, we see it like an audience just as much as you do.
For the first time,
half of it, a lot, you know, the effects that aren't there, we see it. So it's you know, it's really a thrill to see it.
Billy, it must be kind of strange when someone says, okay, fire that gun, but there's nothing coming out of the gun. Is that difficult to adjust to? Or?
Just use your imagination.
But there is something coming out of the gun. Not a laser, but they have charges in it.
Oh, they do? There's a little puff of smoke that comes out to create some sense of
not a puff of smoke, it's a loud big bang.
Big bang. But as far as the laser is concerned, I mean, you just, you know, if you're childlike, and I'm certainly childlike.
You certainly are.
And you just use your imagination, you know. And I remember all of the action in the first Star Wars, and I had a real sense of what was happening at that particular moment.
Do you feel that The Empire Strikes Back will be the turning point in your career? That this is going to open up all kinds of new opportunities for you as an actor?
Yeah, I would hope so, because certainly I'm going to be viewed by an awful lot of people around the world, which is what I'm always looking for at this point in my career.
Carrie, you're always busy between pictures. You've done TV, movies, and so on. Plays also, correct? What are you planning to do next? What's on your agenda?
I don't know. I have another film coming out after this called The Blues Brothers with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. Yeah, which I also weld a, gun. But I would hope to do more plays, you know, and I have nothing definite planned. I think I have to, first we're going to promote this for a while. I'm going to go to Japan and so forth, so then hopefully something else will come along that I like, feel as good about supporting and being a part of as I do about this.